Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with Dr. Stone. Last time around we had King of the Stone World, where basically Taiju and Senku were going to revive Yuzuriha, but they were accosted by a group of lions, so they had to first free the Ultimate Primate High School, or something like that. Was it Tsukasa Shishio? And yeah, he's this big muscle man who was able to defeat the lions and kill the main lion just with his bare hands. And so he now occupies the role of the hunter-gatherer of, well, I guess more just the hunter. Taiju is the gatherer of the group. And then Tsukasa talked to Senku about, should we revive everyone? Should we revive the greedy old people who ruined the world to begin with? Or should we just, revive only the pure-hearted young ones, so they don't taint this world again? And Senku was like, nah, man, I want to defeat this thing 100%. I gotta 100% this. I'm a completionist, not to be confused with the completionist, so I gotta save everybody. So that's pretty much where we left off, with a bit of an impasse between Tsukasa and Senku. So yeah. But yeah, like always, the reaction is down in the description, in the pinned comment for your viewing pleasure, so why don't we just go ahead and jump right into this episode of Dr. Stone. Here we go. Alrighty. Episode 3. We gotta invent the gun. It's interesting, because, while gunpowder was sort of invented, or discovered at least, in 700 AD, but when was the first use of it as a gun? Because, obviously it was also used in fireworks, but who was the first person to, or when was that really weaponized? Apart from the plot of Kung Fu Panda 2, so... See, this show is so great, because it's not only is this, this sort of, I guess we can't call it a fantasy, Senku will get mad, but, this sort of, other world, kind of going back to the Stone Age, but it also, and, obviously it's in the future, but it gives such a perspective on on history, which is pretty cool. So, gunpowder was invented in China sometime during the first millennium AD. The earliest possible reference to gunpowder appearing in 142 AD during the Eastern Han Dynasty, when the alchemist Wei Boyang, also known as the father of alchemy, wrote about a substance with gunpowder-like properties. Okay, now when was that first used in a weapon specifically? Interesting. So it kind of started with fire arrows. It says. Early gunpowder formula contained too little saltpeter, about 50%, to be explosive. But the mixture was highly flammable, so they started making fire arrows. Then they started making rockets. But were those used, against people? Yeah, so for a while they were using that, but then... And then explosives. The fire lance... Naval bombs. Alright, the hand cannon. I guess that's what we're kind of looking for. In 1259, a type of fire-emitting lance made an appearance, and according to the history of Song, it is made with a large bamboo tube, and inside is stuffed a pellet wad. Excuse me. Yeah, so that's interesting. It's just an interesting thing to see. I will say, I'm kind of amazed how much Tsukasa knows, The fact that he pretty much immediately... Well, not immediately, because it took him a little while to, figure out that they had left, and then he, was tracking them, and then it was only a little while later that he realized what Senku is going for, That he's trying to make a gun, basically. So... So it's interesting, and it's true that it's it's kind of funny, because it's here's this guy who can just one-shot a lion with his hand, He literally punched a lion once and it died. But a firearm, no. And that's also interesting too, because it's Senku literally had a crossbow and he dodged the arrow, But I'll be curious to see where this goes, honestly. Like, are we going to get to a point where they have to kill Skasa, Because, I mean, he's going to have to, try and stop them, So, they would be a hindrance on him if he left them alive, so he has to think of something. But does that also mean then that they have to kill him? That'll be crazy. And I guess there's the question of, is Tsukasa actually murdering? Yes, he is. Yes, he is. So, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, you absolutely are. Because it's like, these people can still live, They're in a sort of dormant state, but they are still alive, and the miracle juice can bring them back, It can bring them back and revive them from their, stone shell, basically. So, because of that, it's just like, yeah, that is just straight up murder, And, it's the thing we talked about last episode, that it's like, I get it. I get why he wants to do what he's doing. But at the same time, it's like, from a moral and ethical standpoint, we can't do it like this, Because, think about, like, the fact that he, there was that family. There was that family that, they still had, like, well, maybe not smiles on their faces, but that family was together. And, he spared the two little children, but he murdered their parents. And it's just like, you don't even know if the parents were even bad, So that's the thing. It's like, it's a very tricky thing. And the other thing, too, is that even if they deal with Tsukasa and he's no longer a threat and he's no longer doing this, he's not going to be the last person, Because even then, it's like, he's right that there will be terrible people that they revive. So it's just like, they're going to have to deal with that at some point, too, So, I don't know. It's a very tricky thing, But hey, we revived Yuzuriha. That's pretty good. I like that they were able... I mean, I guess maybe Senku did it, but I like that they were able to just make a relatively cute dress for her to wear. A little revealing, but, But still, it's like... What is the, like, headband thing that she has? Like, that's obviously not part of her. I thought it was, like, headphones at first, but it's clearly just a headband that she wore. But it's weird that, when we see these people in the statues, it's like, the clothes wear off, basically. Like, the clothes, I guess, become a different part of the they're a different part of the stone, and so they just sort of weather away, whereas the body doesn't, So it does make me question. It's like, well, wait, what about her hairband? Why does she keep that? I don't know. Maybe it was already stone or something, or it's just a different material than fabric. So I don't know. But they did revive her. I do also love that she's just a relatively normal girl, And because you could say that Taiju is a normal guy, and compared to Senku, he is, but he's also a goofy idiot, He's such a goofy idiot that it's just like, yeah, I can... It's like, I like the difference there of Yuzuriha just being a normal person, being like, wait, what the fuck is happening? This is so weird, But, and I like, too, when it's like, oh, are you going to run away, or are you going to stand with me and fight? And I like, obviously Taiju is like, yeah, we're gonna stay with you. We gotta help you. We can't leave you on your own. And Yuzuriha is just like, I don't know what's happening, but I can't just leave you here. And so it's just like, all right, all right, thank you. It's just like, thanks. She doesn't know what the fuck is happening. So, and then I like that moment where, they find the Buddha statue that's still there, because that is one of the interesting things, is that, so much of the civilization is just gone. Like, there's no real remnants of what's left other than the stone statues. And it's like, it kind of makes you wonder. It's like, really? No, none of the buildings or anything are still there, or the streets or anything. It's like, and it's interesting because, you think back on, like, 3,700 years ago from here. So what is that exactly? Get out the handy dandy calculator. So 2025 minus 3,700 is 1675 BC. Let's see. 1675 BC. All right, what happened? Events in the 1670s BC. Circa 1674 BC, end of the Middle Kingdom in ancient Egypt. Start of the Second Intermediate Period, the 15th and 17th dynasties. Egypt started the 15th dynasty. 1674 BC, the Hyksos invade Japan. Significant people. 1677 BC, the death of Terah, father of Abraham, according to the Hebrew calendar. And 1675 BC, death of Nikmi Ipa, king of Yamhad, according to the Middle chronology. So that's where we were 3,700 years ago from 2025, you know? So I guess that's the thing, though, is... but we don't know, because it's like we don't have a very, controlled comparison, to go off of, because for us, it's like, well, you could say, well, all the houses and a lot of the infrastructure of ancient Egypt is no longer here. And it's like, yeah, but that's because they tore it down at some point and made new infrastructure, It didn't just get sucked up by the land, And one of the great examples of that is, the pyramids, or even other ancient structures that would exist in sort of, I would imagine there are some in, Babylon, or just today in the Middle East, or in Mesoamerica and stuff like that, or even ancient China. And it's just like these structures still exist, but I don't know. So that's the interesting thing, is like, when I'm just like, oh, so the school isn't there, but I guess that makes it a difference of those ancient civilizations. They built those more to be, to last that long. These are the great sacred structures and stuff that will, last thousands and thousands of years, whereas like this house that I'm sitting in right now, this house is not meant to be here for thousands and thousands of years. Eventually this thing will crack and break, and there will probably need to be a new home put here, or new buildings, new schools, new anything. It's like, so I guess that is one thing, but it is kind of the weird thing about this show, is that like almost nothing has survived, even if it is 3,700 years later. It's like there's seriously nothing here, But there is at least one thing, the statue of Buddha, stuff that was more specifically made, not just, out of the normal building materials, but, the statue of Buddha is made out of bronze, so it has, survived longer, I guess in theory the Statue of Liberty might still be out there, because that was made of copper, not bronze, but still, So it's an interesting thing, definitely. And I guess, though, that also makes it effective, too, that, we're on episode 3, and this is the first time we've seen something from the past that is still remaining there, Like, if when, Taiju woke up, the school was all still right there, then that would have... I guess it sort of would have lessened the impact of seeing the Buddha there, and just being like, hey, we know where we are, and for Yuzuriha, to her to kind of break down, where it's just like, she's thinking about her parents, her friends, the life that she had, and now to her suddenly it's all gone. It's very clear she was not conscious throughout those 3,700 years, like Senku, like Taiju, but it's only in that moment that she really feels the weight of what's happened, So even if she's with, familiar faces, she's with friends, like, it's still a lot has changed about the world. The world that she knew is gone, But, like with Senku and Taiju, there are remnants of her old world, like with the Buddha statue, so that's really good. I will be curious to see just if there are any other structures. I mean, the only other thing is Mount Fuji itself, which is a natural thing. It's a mountain, It's, of course it would be there, But that's the thing. It's like I would be curious if there are any other man-made structures that still survived, So, but again, I like that. I like that this show, while taking place 3,700 years in the future and everything, is still like it gives us this perspective on our own past as human civilization, you know? Just seeing like the different advancements that we now have to make. You know, the fact that we're jumping ahead nearly 2 million years to invent a gun to deal with Tsukasa, you know? But still, it's like just taking that sort of appreciation of what our ancestors basically have had to do for, you know, multiple millennia, and well, more than millennia, you know, millions of years in order to get to where we are here today, you know? So yeah, it's just a very, very interesting show, and I really enjoy that. On top of now, you know, this ethical question of, you know, should we save all the stone statues, you know? Like, I really like that. That's a very good ethical question. It's like a Star Trek episode or something, you know? Where it's like, you know, what are the ethical and moral implications of saving everybody versus saving select few, you know? So yeah, I like it. It is good. But I'm very curious to see where we are going next time. But that is basically it. With all of that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist with all of my Dr. Stone reactions, as well as another video you can go click on if you want. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.